told me that love wasn't real. What kind of a feeling am I starting to feel when I want you so? Why are you so cold? When I'm around you, I want to let go. Lost in your eyes when we're moving too close, and the love we found got me upside down. Close to a second, we can lose it all. When lights are in motion, we're ready to fall. When I want you so, why are you so cold? 'Cause when I'm around you, I want to let go. Lost in your eyes when we're moving too close, and the love we found got me upside down. For as long as you want.
Hello and welcome everybody to the SMITE Global Series. We've got SEA for you today. I'm Agro, joined by Taco. In Taco, these open brackets continue. We're into the third week now, I believe, here at the SMITE Global Series, and excited to see what the SEA region has to offer.
It's been some pretty stiff competition between all of these members, and it's very evident that they're probably going to be able to keep things going.
Well, here we go. It's week number 3. We got the bracket for you so you can see exactly how we got here into the finals. We've got CN 666 up against Boys with Tiaras. CN, they beat XLO in the semifinals 2-0, and the Boys with Tiaras beat Wadia. Wadia? That's what I'm going to go with. 2-0. I don't have to worry about it anymore because they're already out. We got the Boys with Tiaras here in the final. So it's CN 666 up against the Boys with Tiaras, and this is where I think that the SMITE Global Series is going to start to really get interesting, because we've started our pro league play, the SPL, which usually kind of dictates the metas even here and in the Global Series. So I think that we might start to see an adjustment from some of these teams in how they pick and ban as we head right into those picks and bans.
A lot of the international regions do tend to take note of what happens in both EU and North American SPL and try to blend it in with their own play styles and basically gods that they can kind of favor.
Well, Kukulkan and Habwa, two gods that have seen some at least pro-level play, though Habwa has not been quite as successful in the SPL as I think some people may have expected. Daji has been one that's been all over the place there, as Nemesis banned away by the Boys with Tiaras as well. So now CN has that first pick option. Couple gods open, and Thoth is the one that we see that panned almost every game. Taco, is this the first game we actually get to see him? I can't think of another one.
It's not just the Thoth pick that's also available. Ullr left open on the table. Yeah. A couple of really strong selections. Burst seems to be the primary mentality here, and probably some of the main reasons why we're seeing the Nemesis, Habwa, and Daji bans coming through. Kukulkan, you just want to avoid that sort of solo laning pressure to deal with.
Well, Artio and Ganesh, so 2 Guardians off the board here really early for Boys with Tiaras. That just immediately relegates the Artio to the solo lane. Is this just because Ganesh has a pretty decent matchup into Artio that they really want to take that off the board right away?
One of the main reasons is they might just be looking for a lot of sustain and frontline. They're going to be able to find that particularly with these double Guardian compositions. So now that they have their 3 remaining god choices to just be left open to kind of working in their burst damage, Discordia, an excellent mage, I think, to really fulfill that role.
Yeah, certainly can in the mid lane here for Boys with Tiaras. The Odin pick pretty early here by CN. It does very well against the Artio, but Ganesh can go through the Odin cage. Now Discordia can as well. So maybe a little bit early on the trigger for that Odin, but the Hu Yi synergizes so well with it with the ultimate that an Odin isn't just only cage anymore. You know, he really does bring enough burst damage in the early game, control with the slow in the mid game, that it doesn't feel too bad to pick it this early on.
Early game control is a really good direction to head in, especially when you're sacrificing a little bit of that early lane pressure because you have that Thoth pickup. The Odin plus Hu Yi combination, whether that's going to be a kill primary focus in the duo lane, or if they want to throw that Odin into this solo lane role. Either way, I think it's going to fare pretty strongly with the rest of this team comp. CN666 has so much lockdown potential already, despite the fact that Ganesh can get out of the ring. Can't always get out if that dash isn't available.
That's true. Hachiman can't either, as Boys with Tiaras already selected that for their duo lane. Thanatos Osiris tells me that Odin is going to be in the support role and trying to fill that kill lane sort of opportunity for the Boys of CN 666, and Bastet, the final selection here for the jungle of Boys with Tiaras. Up against that Thanatos can be shifty enough that it's hard for Thanatos to lock her down, and that poke damage is especially potent onto a god that's going to be using his own health as a resource to use his own abilities.
I like the Bastet pickup. I think it can be a really strong selection against the Thanatos. My only concern would be that jump-in initiation. Typically, you want to try and use that pounce in order to get the bonus damage off of your other abilities, but that's not going to be very likely, as Thanatos can just look for the silence or a scythe straight to the face.
That's true. Jumping straight into a Soul Reap never really feels too good. We're in game here. SEA, the finals here in the SMITE Global Series. It's CN 666 up against the Boys with Tiaras. In this match, Taco, I'm looking at the early game and late game of CN666. They've drafted a really well-balanced composition. Thoth is going to take a while to ramp up, but Thanatos, Osiris, Odin, these are gods that are willing to fight you early and do very well doing so.
And I like that you pointed out just how well CN666 draft is going to continue to progress over time in this match, whether they want to look purely for the early game, mid, or late. They have the gods necessary to really control those certain aspects of the game.
Well, a little bit of a grouping here on the top left side, just kind of scouting out for some information potentially, but could go the ways of Boys with Tiaras because they've got the numbers advantage, though. As soon as that ability missed from Bastet, that immediately signals the retreat for the red team, so just kind of gonna wait it out. Is there a particular area that you feel like Boys with Tiaras should try and push an early game advantage? I mean, does it have to be against the mid lane Thoth?
I would feel it to be in this dual lane role more than anything else. It is going to be an Odin support. So Odin pairing alongside of that Hu Yi, a lot of poke potential between these two gods. Hachiman and Ganesh have a fairly strong lane clearing between their two abilities, but it's still so easy to take a lot of poke damage from this Odin early on. You don't really want to invest that dash to catch the Odin out and take the return fire. Well,
Hoxie already was kind of in a weird spot there as the Ganesh and Bunny ended up getting poked out pretty heavily. Ganesh actually using his primary wave clear, that Turn of Fate, to just poke out the opposition. That could just be because the boys know that they're going to get out cleared in this lane pretty much no matter what, though. The brother taking quite a bit of extra poke damage that probably wasn't necessary. Still shouldn't matter too much. CN is going to be able to invade on that left-hand side, courtesy of that pressure we were talking about.
And if you take a look at the Hunter's itemization choices already, it does seem as though the Hu Yi is going to be opting for the Devourer's Gauntlets as their initial starting first couple of items, and the Hachiman seems to be trending more towards that Transcendence we've been seeing a lot of as of late.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising. Transcendence Hu Yi feels so strong. I mean, his abilities are really potent, even more so than most Hunters. Hachiman is kind of in that same boat where that 10% CDR actually is pretty relevant for him. So a little surprised to see Hu Yi decide to go for the Devourer's Gauntlets. Is Bastet going to jump forward, though Thanatos had already used the Scythe, so safe enough for the moment. But it collapsed onto the red buff. The dual lane already here, looking for the Discordia. Big damage courtesy of the Bird Bomb. Hu Yi focused on the red buff for the moment, but now going to jump forward as Odin claims first blood. CN get off to a great start there. Double kill courtesy of the great stun coming out of Koala. Got the purification beads and the kill, and they're going to get the red buff, Taco.
That's just every mid lane and jungler's nightmare unfolding all at once. The dual lane just could not afford to make the same rotation because they still had to focus on the wave. If they sacrifice that wave to try and rotate over, they're risking joining the team fight still at level 1 in the face of level 2 gods that have a lot of potent damage early on.
Good stun there from Bunny, putting Hu Yi pretty low. Now it's going to be Odin in a bit of trouble, though still has the lunge, so he'll be A-OK. No one A-OK on that right-hand side except for the Artio. Marquise grabs the solo kill onto the Osiris. Taco, usually it's the Warrior who gets to get the better end of the early solo lane, but Artio finds the solo kill.
Artio has a whole lot of sustain that might catch a lot of solo laners off guard, and the fact is he's still sitting very healthy in that solo lane, leading me to believe that he actually managed to even find that kill onto the Osiris before Hung could make it back underneath his T1 tower.
Yeah, so that's a good kind of trade almost for Boys with Tiaras. Their left side losing pretty handily right now, even their mid lane a bit behind, but on the solo side, things are going well for the Artio. You can see why that Artio was the first pick for the Boys with Tiaras. Another invade attempt on this left-hand side. Who are you going to jump in as Osiris may take another spill on the right? He will indeed. Marquise finds another solo kill, and now Hu Yi may end up falling on the left, trying to get away, but Bastet should be able to catch up with that speed buff. His Odin support has already fallen. No way for Hu Yi to survive. A quick couple kills, and Artio finds another kill underneath the tower. Looks like Ringo Starr bit off a little bit more than he could chew, diving into the solo lane tower. So what started off as a great start for CN, all of a sudden it's 5-2 in favor of Boys with Tiaras.
3 kills in 3 minutes exactly, pretty much, for that Artio solo lane, and that's the last thing you want to see. Artio is already an incredibly annoying god to try and deal with in team fights because of how much sustain and just that little burst heal. It can give her so much more than what other teams might be anticipating when they're trying to really lock her down, take her out of the team fight. So knowing that she's already this fed and your solo lane is just now hitting level 4, it's going to put him in a really rough spot.
Nice job there by Discordia to avoid the bird bomb damage, but I don't think it's going to matter here, Taco. Final Judgment will clean that one up. Koala claims his first kill of the game. Again, it's this Odin support really causing problems, it feels like, on this left-hand side. Is it lack of communication that they're invading the red buff, or is it just the burst is too much?
Just one of the advantages of having a warrior support early game is kind of the dominating fact or time period for this Odin, and the fact that he was also able to receive the first blood bounty it also attributed heavily to Odin support being able to control these buffs so well. Yeah,
I mean, he's already got the warrior tabi as well, as continues to take chunks out of Bunny. This Osiris having a lot of trouble on this right-hand side. Now, if you're going to get soloed down a couple times and be level 4 to someone's level 6, at least RDO doesn't have an ultimate available at this point to really punish the Osiris. So at least there's some sort of silver lining to letting the RDO get bigger than a traditional solo lane.
But even when Osiris got soloed for the second time, we saw him auto-attack on the RDO through that creep damage, kind of just not really paying heed to it.
Well, on the left side, Bunny in a ton of trouble. He's going to fall here to the combination of the Odin Hu Yi ultimates. That's exactly why you draft that composition. Is on the right. Hong continues to get dove, though. He might end up finding a return kill here. No, the tower switches at the perfect time. Great juggle there by the jungle solo of Boys with Tiaras. They find the kill, though. Godlike Crazy ended up falling in the mid lane at the same time.
I'm starting to feel bad for the camera guy right now because there is legit just kills happening in every single part of the map right now.
Tough to keep up, for sure. Pecky's is doing his best back there. Gold Fury is going to end up falling here to CN666. This is kind of the story of the game, Taco. Left side, it's all CN. If this map was cut in half and you were only watching the duo lane, you're like, oh, CN's up by 1,000,000. If you're cutting on the right-hand side, you're like, oh, Boys with Tiaras are absolutely killing this game. They're going to win easy. It's just a matter of which fed lane is going to end up having the bigger impact.
I will say, though, for Season 5, it does feel as though having that map control in duo and mid seems to bear a little bit more weight than establishing a lot of control in the solo lane side. Solo's kind of isolated.
But there's a bear on the right-hand side, so I think you got those a little mixed up.
It's too early for this.
We haven't casted together in a while, Taco. This is you must have forgotten what it's like.
Oh no, I never forget about the dad bro jokes. Those will never go away.
I think they're funny. I think it's funny that this game has been so back and forth already. I mean, 11 kills in under 7 minutes is just an insane amount of action, and it's really benefited the mid and left-hand side for CN. We've talked so much about the left side, but look at the mid lane, Taco. 2-0 and 2 right now for Koala. He's sitting at level 8, whereas Godlike Crazy only at level 6. Now, Godlike Crazy has finished off that Warlock staff, so he's starting his stacks up now, while Thoth's still waiting on his, as Hong probably is going to need to ult away here. Drops the cats. Though RDO continues the chase. The cats can continue to do the work for them. And Aonuki going to grab that one.
This is exactly what I love to see. CN666 knows that their solo laner is just being punished heavily for taking that early spill against the RDO. They're perfectly okay with that. They want to keep commanding this duo and mid side of the map because at least then it's not just one member of their team that's gaining a little bit more experience than their opposition. It's 3 members benefiting pretty heavily. And actually, if you include the Thanatos, that's technically 4 out of 5 people on their team.
Well, it might be one less now because Marquise grabs Ringo Starr. It might be best to just kind of call that the quarantine zone, basically. Oh, he stuns out the dash with the ricochet. Now going to dash underneath the tower. That might end up getting the kill for the other side. Boys with Tiaras trying to finish it off. Thoth over the wall. Beautiful stun there. Charging the final judgment. That will miss, but the bird bomb will not. Odin support Nevermore going to grab that kill. Man, that was risky plays there by the brother.
That was an even riskier back by the Ganesh. That triple bounce 1 second later and it would have connected and possibly even found an additional kill in duo.
Everyone, these are just kind of it just feels like a bunch of adrenaline junkies. Like they just love playing with fire, jumping into tower at 8 minutes. Sure, I'm down as long as I can kill the support who's already kind of behind. Like that's not really the usual ADC mentality, but I like it. Kind of amped up for these finals here in the SMITE Global Series. And going back to the builds that we were talking about for this Hu Yi, if that's a Transcendence instead of the Devourer's Gauntlets, you get a much bigger power spike right away. That probably is a dead Ganesh.
It does feel as though Broher was looking more for the mid to late game kind of sustain out of that Huyi Devo Gloves. Anytime you're against a burst composition, because there is a lot of burst on the side of Boys with Tiaras, between that Bastet and Discordia alone, having that lifesteal in the late game is going to pay off pretty substantially. But more importantly, we were talking about it earlier on with their drafts and how CN666 felt a lot more rounded out as far as touching every single part of the game with a strong point, and that's why I love seeing so much early game aggression from them.
Well, Ringo gonna make sure that Bunny takes another spill. Beautiful alt and Scythe combo. No chance to use the Aegis for Bunny. Never saw it coming. The right-hand side again, look at where the Bastet is heading. Yuki gonna try and show his face once more. Hong just too far pushed up here, Taco. No tier 1 tower anymore either. No chance for him to get away, even with that Lord of the Afterlife. He's gonna get chased down. Cat's not really even needed there from Yuki because that RDO continues to do more than enough damage, basically all by herself.
I think Osiris has kind of just accepted his fate at this point. We saw a couple of attempts towards ganks from Ringo Star. I would think that he's probably going to avoid going towards that area like you were discussing with the whole quarantine zone.
Well, there goes the dive onto the mid lane tower. Ringo Star actually turns it around and finds the kill onto the Ganesh. Koala stays alive, now charging that final judgment, just misses Yuki. Very, very close play there in the mid lane. Bunny probably going to fall here on the left. Does cost Huyi his ultimate, but certainly a worthwhile trade as the action continues now in the mid lane.
But the rotations have started coming through from this bear. RDO done with the solo lane. Pretty much no point continuing to farm out this Osiris. Not really worth much of a bounty anymore, and these rotations are so necessary for Boys with Tiaras to re-establish their control on the mid and dual lane portions of the map.
Yeah, I really feel like if Marquise is able to make those rotations into the mid and punish Koala, I mean, Thoth does have problems with RDO, cannot dash to get away from her when that cripple field is around, and you can't really stun her out of anything unless you can dash, so pretty decent matchup there for the RDO, especially whenever you have got this much farm, though. Marquise, no magical protection quite yet, is really focused on getting some physical protection in CDR with that Breastplate of Valor, so Koala still has a little bit of a window where he can be very effective into that RDO solo, but if Marquise just picks some magical defense, pick your item, doesn't really matter here, you can really start to see him jump on top of Koala and make his life difficult.
I like the decision, though, to commit to physical prots early on, considering that CN666, while their draft has some strong suits throughout the match, they are still running a 4 physical god composition, and a lot of times in competitive play, this can be slightly detrimental.
No, Bunny's still on the horse, so doesn't get stunned out by that hovering death. Ringo still looking to continue the chase. Discordia here, putting out some damage. Good shell coming from Ganesh, but it's still not going to be enough. Odin Ring down. Final Judgment doesn't really find a home. As Ringo forced back by that golden apple. Broer going to finish off the Ganesh, and now this should be a Gold Fury pull. RDO is on the way, though, here, Taco. She's still pretty big, 5-0 and 2, but Gold Fury falling pretty low. Got to be secured soon by CN, and they will do just that. That's their second Gold Fury of the game, as Ringo is going to find another kill in the mid lane. Yuki just caught out there by the Thanatos.
It feels as though Boys at Tiaras is just clinging on to this last hope that the RDO is going to come in with these huge rotations that can salvage the team fight, but they're just dying before the RDO can even make it there. They have to hold on to life just a little bit longer to try and get that solid 5-man grouping up and see if they can work around the little bit of damage that they do have going for them.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, man. This RDO's lead already starting to slip away. I mean, even with all the kills that Hong took in that solo lane, they're still the same level now. Osiris hitting level 12, Marquise also at level 12. A lot of it is because of those rotations that Marquise was trying to make, and Hong was just kind of sitting in lane and waiting out and trying to farm up, much needed from him. But it's also the global pressure. I mean, a bunch of tier 1 towers, T1 in left and in mid, both went down for CN. That's a Gold Fury, that's a Pyromancer, that's a ton of golden experience that Hong is just being gifted by the lead that the rest of his team has gotten.
The only real point of map control that Boys with Tiaras did have going for them was just removing that T1 tower in the solo lane, but they couldn't even have control over the Pyromancer just because the team fights are so heavily one-sided towards CN666 right now.
Well, I like what Hoxie's gone for here as the Ganesh, deciding to go for Sovereignty instead of that Gauntlet of Thieves. This isn't the area you want to fight if you're CN, because this is the only area where you don't have a big lead. RDO is locked in the cage, but Ringo going to come crashing down with that hovering death, looking for the death sight onto Yuki, still falling very low. Scythe is going to miss, and Ringo very low. Yuki actually picks it up with the bleed. Might be able to get away. No, nice tether there. Spirit Flail over the wall, grabs the kill for Hong. As the fight rages on, RDO gets stunned out, still trying to get away. Might be able to break that tether distance and will, but Osiris still wants this chase, Taco. He needs some revenge.
He needs this revenge, and I can't blame him. Thought's going to use those purification beads. Meanwhile, Marquise is still trying to get away from Hong. Hong, though, you're already using the Thorns. Doesn't really have much other follow-up potential, and Sexy Rower is going to find a solo kill for himself on the opposite side of the map. Again, so much action the entire time with these two teams.
Yeah, waiting on that jump cooldown. Needs just one more second. Right on time, and that'll get him away. Ganesh not able to find that cleanup kill. Meanwhile, on the right-hand side, the Benny Hill music is over because Marquise did eventually fall. And it looks like it might have gone to Hong there. No, he actually got the kill onto the Bastet. So didn't find the personal revenge he probably wanted, but still it was able to help his team track down this Fed Bear.
And something to note, though, is even when Godlike Crazy made that rotation over the solo side, no one seemed to care. Absolutely everybody on CN666 just seemed to ignore this Discordia having rotated in, and all the attention was still being put onto Marquise.
Yeah, I mean, why not at this point? 0-3-2 so far for Godlike Crazy. Is pretty close to finishing off those Warlock staff sacks, sitting at 75, but still just not going to be as effective as the RDO, who was at that time sitting at 5-0. So you can understand the focus fire onto the Guardian solo laner, but now going to make it pretty difficult to stay alive because of that Stone of Gaia. Does give her a lot of health, some good regen, but that regen gets shut down in the Odin cage. There's not a lot of knockups on the other side. In fact, only one, and that's if she gets marked by Hu Yi and then jumped on to activate that passive. So you're really just looking for the effective health from this item in this situation, but with no magical protection against at 4-0 and 7 level 15 Thoth. As soon as Koala rotates to these fights, I don't know what Marquise can really do against it now.
The level disparities between the carries on both teams is just massive right now. You have a 5-level lead now between the Hunters, and again, another 4-level lead between the mid laners alone. It's really hard as a Hachiman trying to box into this Hu Yi when you already know you're at a severe disadvantage.
Hong gets jumped on here by Yuki. But right there is Koala. That's the damage we're talking about. Stunned out in the middle of the jump, courtesy of the Judgment Tether. Hong gonna grab that one. Marquise forces Koala back, but look at this damage, Taco. This is exactly what we're talking about.
That was an absurd amount of damage. A quick little final judgment, just gonna take Marquise down and out for the count. Doesn't even seem like he stood a chance. You would not have guessed that this RDO had a commanding lead at the start of this match.
Exactly. Koala and the rest of CN has just kind of made it happen elsewhere. They said, okay, you can take the right side all you want. We'll go mid, we'll go left side, we'll grab Gold Furies, we'll give our Hu Yi a 5-level lead over Bunny and just kind of see you. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, basically. And we're at the bridge, and we've crossed over it pretty easily. The Hu Yi in the rest of CN666 not having too much trouble with this RDO.
312 damage, by the way, off of that double bounce from the Ricochet. These auto attacks are completely chunking away the Hachiman's health as well.
In that slower start from the Devourer's Gauntlets that we were kind of worried about from the Hu Yi, not going to really matter now. In fact, feels very potent at this point. This is the classic Devo Gloves, Boots, Executioner, power spike for Hunters. As soon as you finish that third item is when you can really feel like you're ready to make an impact in the game.
One of the main reasons why Broher can afford to just sit in this duo lane aggressing two members from Boys with TR is not just the level disparity between them, but also the simple fact that these Devourer Gauntlets provides that sustain alongside of the Executioner. You have the protection shred, and it's ultimately just leading him to be untouchable. Yeah,
pretty much everyone feels untouchable right now for CN666. Even Hong, who got off to that rough start in the solo lane. Bear with us real quick as we have a quick pause. See, I said bear this time, but it wasn't in reference to anywhere where RTO wouldn't be.
I got that. But
Okay, cool.
more also another thing I wanted to also bring up was the fact that Hong might have been the punching bag for his team early on, but I think that was kind of a little bit of tunnel visioning from boys at Tiara as they were just abusing this Osiris. And I understand when you recognize that one part of your map is getting cyberbullied essentially, and you try to just go to another section, you can't afford to just invest everything into that one lane though when you have two others losing. You've gotta at some point try and look for those rotations a little bit sooner, help put that band over that wound that's just gashing everywhere right now.
Yeah, it feels like, I mean, Marquise kind of had that lane under wraps. You know, Yuki didn't really need to come over there and make sure that he was getting pressure, getting kills. It kind of felt like RDO was going to be able to do that all by her own. So maybe send that Bastet to that left-hand side to kind of help out your Hachiman, keep Bunny alive and make sure that he can stay healthy. It is one of those situations where maybe it was a little bit too much focus onto the god, though it does feel really good to kill your lane opponent over and over and over again. Probably would have been better to spread the love, if you will.
It's got to feel a lot better if you are the Osiris, though, for CN666, just because what's better than feeding your brains out early on and then having everybody in your team assist you to come back?
Koala in a lot of trouble underneath the mid lane tower. He will fall, but Yuki gets traded out by an ultimate from Ringo Starr. Still, in my mind, I'm calling Worth right now if I'm Yuki. I put the first death into Koala's death column, and that's a really big one. I mean, I can only imagine the bounty that Yuki grabbed for finding that kill. And will slow down CN potentially, though. If Boys with Tiaras don't have any intention of coming to this Gold Fury, and Taco doesn't look like they really do, not going to matter too much if they don't have their Thop.
For Yuki, though, there's only so many times that 1-for-1 is actually going to pay off. And picking up that Crusher now is going to be a huge asset as far as just dealing that initial burst damage that we've kind of been expecting from the Bastet to hit eventually, but it's still not going to really be worth it in the long term just because the rest of Boys with Tiaras are struggling so much to try and deal any sort of damage. They need that burst from their Bastet.
Blink Cage in from Nevermore, but there wasn't a lot of follow-up there. Ringo and Hong were there, but no Hu Yi. That's kind of your primary follow-up with dropping the Suns into the Odin Cage. And no Koala means that there wasn't a ton of AoE damage. Ringo certainly could have done some with the Death Scythe, but not going to cover the whole area. So it did force Boys with Tiaras off of the Pyromancer, though. But I like the call from Boys with Tiaras. You know, you give up Gold Fury. You're a little bit late on going to the Pyromancer. Probably needed to be doing that as CN was doing the Gold Fury. But at least they, you could tell that their heads are still in it. They're still trying to find those key objectives.
Oh, quick little dash there from Koala, trying to find the stun. Gonna miss, though, onto Godlike Crazy, still charging up that ultimate, just reminding Boys at Tiaras that damage could happen at any moment. More importantly, it's going to be some aggression again in the duo, or solo lane side, excuse me.
Yeah, Cat used by Yuki, but didn't end up coming to fruition, really. Ringo used the Hovering Death just to make sure that he could close the gap, so a couple ultimates from junglers traded away for not a whole lot. CN decides that with their commanding lead, they get to pull Pyromancer now, and Boys with Tiaras don't really get to do anything about it.
Kind of just waiting for them to straight up pull the Fire Giant. Even if Boys with Tiaras were to try and fight inside of that pit, that would more than likely spell their own deaths rather than the enemy team. CN666 have just been completely controlling every single part of this game so far, and the pacing, more importantly, is also completely under check, and it's up to them.
Yeah, absolutely. This is no longer, a back and forth affair, it feels like. It's CN666 deciding this is what we're going to do. And Boys with Tiaras, you either get to play our game or not play at all. And Boys in that situation decide that they don't want to play on the Pyromancer at all. I completely agree with you, Taco. It's one of those situations almost where I'd rather let Boys with Tiaras have the Fire Giant warded, because it's better for CN to almost have them come in and try and fight on that objective. RDO caged in. Koala going to be able to close the gap. Good damage, brings her down to half HP, but a nice Ganesh ult actually sticks Thoth right on the wall. Takes a bit of damage, but still going to be safe for now. Really nice Discordia Strife there from Godlike Crazy, but Marquise still on the run. Final Judgment won't be able to reach, but Ringo's Blink just off the mark with the Death Scythe.
That was just 2 iterations, though, of Thoth Poke, and it took down the most fed player on Boys at Tiaras to 1/3 of their health bar. That is just an incredible amount of damage. Discordia trying to work their way into the Fire Giant pit, but they don't stand a chance against the damage of CN666.
Koala secures it with the evade and punish. Discordia falls to the Hovering Death from Ringo. Ganesh falls next. Bastet jumps in. Doesn't have a chance to even do anything else after that. Ringo finds himself a double kill. That's 3 kills the ways of CN666. 5 members of Fire Giant, and they're all pretty healthy here still, Taco.
The only real saving grace for Boys at Tiaras at the moment is just the fact that all the ways were not pushed in CN666 favor, but they don't seem to care about that in the slightest. Going to use that hieroglyphic wall to get the bonus damage that they need to against this mid Phoenix, and it's going to go down.
Right side Phoenix could be next, though. As you mentioned, no minion wave here, so a little bit risky. Koala finds the stun onto Bunny. My goodness, that damage! Koala doesn't even need the ultimate to find the kill onto the Hachiman. Right side Phoenix going to fall. RDO locked in the cage, but good objective focus from CN666. Nets them another Phoenix. Now mid and right side down, and not a whole lot standing to stop them in the left. Only a half health tier 2 tower and a Phoenix that doesn't, I don't know how much it can really do. It needs some support.
Normally, Phoenix defense is the strong suit at competitive levels of play because it will allow teams that have been losing throughout the entire match to kind of stand a chance, use that Phoenix as a 6th man, but CN666 are just so boosted right now that there is just not even a single chance for the Phoenix to really deal any sort of damage to their front line.
Rough stuff right now for Boys with Tiaras. Probably already thinking about game 2. This is a best of 3 set here in the finals of with this week's SMITE Global Series. This is, again, SEA region. What are you thinking about right now if you're Boys with Tiaras for the next game? I mean, in my mind, tell me if you disagree, I'm saying, all right, Marquise, we're giving you something that you can get big and carry on. RDO kind of close to that, but I'm thinking some sort of real carry warrior that can get bigger, maybe even an assassin that can really abuse Hong's weaker laning phase and try and get off to a better start.
Would love to see Marquise on a god that he could actually afford to rotate on sooner. With RDO, despite having such a commanding lead in solo, he still can't really make that rotation early on, or else he's just going to lose all of that farm against the Osiris, and lead will not meet me and of any significance. But also, I want to see them ban Thoth.
Yeah. Yeah, that too. That's a pretty good start as well. Something that, you know, we see Thoth banned so often early on in Season 5, and sometimes we see these gods that get banned all the time and then they finally get through and get picked and they don't really do anything. Not the case here for Koala. 3-man stun by Marquise and decent follow-up from Bunny off the mounted archery as well. A decent start to this fight, but Koala still sitting at half HP. Yuki jumps in and immediately jumps out, but is met by Ringo on the backhand side. Marquise still pushing forward, doing his best on the RDO, but stunned out and put down. Hong gets his revenge finally for that early solo lane bullying. Yuki still on the run in the back line. Final Judgment just off the mark, but God Like Crazy still needed to use the Aegis. Left side Phoenix still under siege as it's already a 5v3. Ringo's just having fun in the back line. This Koala finds his own double kill. Phoenix dead. Titan next on the list. CN666 take game number 1 over Boys with Tiaras.
There just wasn't a single moment of hesitation, really, from CN666. They knew what they were working with. They knew that their damage was pretty much uncontested from Boys with Tiaras, and that one was just all CN.
All CN from basically the get-go. The only side that didn't look like that was that solo lane side. I know we talked about it a lot that game, but that was one of the most stark differences that we've seen in a while in competitive play. And we're one side of the map going super well for one team, the other side going super well for the other. And in Season 5, you know, it ends up being the duo in mid that end up on top. In previous seasons, Taco, Season 3, Season 4, there's a pretty decent chance that one fed solo laner ends up being worth more than, you know, a big mid and a big duo lane.
And again, I think part of the reason for that is also just the fact that RDO being a Guardian just isn't going to have the same kind of impact that a fed warrior might have been able to carry over into that game. No hate on the Marquise, of course. He played that RDO
he played very
beautifully,
well.
but just only so much that he can actually work with. Would really like to see Boys at Tiaras throw him a pick that he can make those early game rotations on and have an impact, prevent the mid lane carry like what we saw from Koala, maybe even get some early kills or early unexpected kills, because you don't expect to see a solo laner in your duo against your ADC coming from like the 15-minute mark.
Sound like you're talking from experience here. From,
it's
some ranked games, maybe.
I don't want to remember them.
Couple mid laners banned away, Habwa and Thoth. There's a Thoth ban that we were all hoping for, at least for the sake of Boys with Tiaras. RDO actually banned here by CN. They don't want to see that, and who could blame him after Marquise's performance? So Taco and I are in agreement that maybe something a little bit harder, a hard carry, may end up being more beneficial, as Giannis going to be the first selection here. God Like Crazy didn't have an offensive performance for me. I mean, fell behind early, wasn't anywhere close to the effectiveness of Koala, of course, but you could see that he was, his positioning in the early game needed a little bit of work with his rotations, but his late game team fight, I mean, how much can you really do when you're already that far behind? I've got no problem trying to prioritize one of his picks and keep Koala down potentially with some good play in the mid lane.
I'm actually really excited to see Boys with Tiaras in game number 2, because if they don't fall victim to another massive lead like they did in game 1, I think that we're actually going to see a little bit more out of these players. We never really got a chance to see what they're capable of, because when your team is just suffering from 7, 8, 9K gold leads and experience differences so early on, there isn't really much you can do no matter what god you're playing.
Well, now they've got an interesting selection there. It's a Loki with a side of Boys with Tiaras. You still hope they're doing better this game? Is that really what you want now? Do you really want to encourage the Loki play?
I can't hate on Loki.
Okay.
I really can't.
We'll talk about that later. Thor, Neath, the two selections so far for CN. Global presence is the first thing that really jumps off the table for me here. I mean, if you were having trouble in the duo lane before, now you got to worry about a Thor ult, a Neath ult coming to mid. It's going to be tough to keep track of where everyone is on the side of CN and where all the damage is coming from. And even more damage, and again, more lockdown. So much CC for CN already in this draft, and Cabrakan really adds to that beautifully.
It's a reoccurring theme for CN. They had a little bit of an execution comp in the last game as well. Everybody just looking for the poke damage. I love the Thoth with the Thanatos just because you have that poke to find the execute thresholds. But now, again, we're seeing the Thor, the Neath, the Cabrakan. Execution and timing is going to be really important here for CN66's current draft. And Neath is probably the primary concern that I'm looking at. If she's headed towards the duo lane, she is very punishable in that role. I would like to see Boys with Tiaras look for a really aggressive hunter pick, although they do already have the Geb selected, so finding aggression in the duo lane could be pretty difficult at the starting point.
I could see this being Neath mid, Cabrakan jungle, and that's a combo that I love. Tons of CC, tons of early game pressure. I know that Neath is very vulnerable in the duo lane and vulnerable basically everywhere because of how predictable the backflip is, but at the same time, her early clear is good, her mid game feels really solid, her itemization got a lot better. Transcendence boots into Crusher on Neath feels so strong. I feel like Neath is almost a top tier, if not absolutely a top tier mid laner right now. That's where I hope, at least, this pick is going.
Seems as though Boys with Tiaras are not convinced that this is going to be a mid lane Neath. They have banned 4 different mages now against CN666, so they're really trying to prevent any sort of preference, player preference, god preference for CN. They don't, and I love the gods that they chose to take away as well. The Agni and the Discordia could add in pretty heavily towards those chaos compositions, and that really seems to be what CN is looking for, especially selecting that Guan Yu.
Athena last picked here for Boys with Tiara, so could be Athena solo, I'm guessing here. Could be Athena jungle, Loki solo. We'll have to wait and see. I imagine that Geb is going to be in the duo lane, though, and Athena is going to be the one to rotate elsewhere. Athena kind of more versatile in the sense that her lane clear is a little bit better. She can bully you a little bit better. But we have seen things like Geb Walker playing, the Geb solo for Deathwalker and stuff like that. And Poseidon last pick for CN666 means that it is going to be Neath in the duo lane. So Boys with Tiaras were right. So you ban away 4 mid laners, pick another one. This is the 6th best, at least on paper, that they thought was available. So Koala going to go on with a little bit of a different strategy. Again, it is going to be Thor jungle, Cabrakan support. So plenty of lockdown for CN666. Any one of these stuns into a Whirlpool is going to be difficult for Boys with Tiaras to deal with.
I will say we wanted to see Marquise on a god that we thought that he could carry on, and Loki is apparently the solution for Boys with Tiaras, although building up a lead like what he had in Game 1 was a possibility because of the fact that Artio just has that sustain early on, a little bit more favorable against the Osiris. Can't really say the same for a Loki facing off against the Guan Yu now.
Completely agree. In every sense, Loki is he's a carry out of the solo lane, there's no doubt. He just gets big and gets a ton of farm and one-shots your mages, your assassins, your hunters, whoever he really wants to. But in order to get the lead that Marquise had in Game 1, it's going to be really, really difficult, especially if he gets caught out here. I mean, look at where Hong is kind of coming in late with this Guan Yu. Marquise wants to drop the decoy in between the Tier 1 and Tier 2 towers. Still really could here, Taco, but not sure where the jungler is. Probably wiser to just say, okay, my plan got foiled a little bit here and to head right to lane.
This is just classic Loki gameplay, though. Running around
Yep.
in a circle, waiting to toss out the decoy, see what poke potential is possible. Speaking of which, a little bit of poke from Bunny now in duo, but eating a lot for it. That Cabrakan damage early on is nothing to mess with.
No, and the Neath as well, but again, it kind of using your skills to prioritize poke instead of the clear. Don't know if that's going to end up working out, though. I think that does end up favoring the Neath because of how much sustain she has built into the kit. The Unravel, a very strong burst heal, though Cern has some sustain built in as well, but probably going to wait until level 3 at the earliest to grab that shifting seasons and start to tick up a little bit with the auto attacks.
And this is the same sort of gameplay style that we saw from CN's duo lane in the previous match, where they were prioritizing looking for the poke out potential against Boys with Tiara's duo. And it seemed to work out pretty well for them. They were able to establish the control from it, although we haven't seen any red buff invades just yet. Purple buff going to be their first note.
Athena and Giannis in the mid lane, willing to take some poke. Nice double portal there from Godlike Crazy. Koala pretty low on health and no more health potions available. So that's one of those situations where the poke is very relevant. Very relevant on this left-hand side too, because this Neath very, very low. Nice turnaround route, but Gev's still on the chase. Not going to have the cooldowns though, and Rover's going to be able to get away.
They're just level 1. That's the main downfall there. They didn't secure their own purple buff. CN got off another successful invade, although it does seem as though the red buff was also invaded by CN66.
Yeah.
So that's pretty rough for Boys with Tiaras already.
It's the same sort of strategy as last game. No real adjustment quite yet. I mean, pressure in mid and duo. Probably going to leave Hong alone. I can't imagine that anyone's going to come over there and try and help out this early on. So kind of got to be ready for that, I feel like, Taco. If you're Boys with Tiaras, you got to kind of say, okay, this is what they did well last game. We should at least be ready for that strategy, and then we'll have to adjust on the fly if they decide to make an adjustment. And CN says, all right, if you guys aren't going to change anything, why should we?
One thing to keep in mind, though, is I like that there's strong points in both of these drafts. Even though we're looking at Loki, not necessarily viewing him as a god that's going to be able to single-handedly carry a game, at the same time, Loki-Athena ult combination is pretty nasty, especially if you are in that invis with the Loki.
Very true. That is a very potent combination, and those two, Yuki and Marquise, were the two that seemed to have the most synergy on the team last game. At least they had the most success working together more so than anybody else on Boys with Tiaras. So it ends up, could be pretty potent, though. Again, these aren't gods that get off to leads particularly well. Athena in the jungle is pretty decent, but still not the, I mean, Thor should be able to out-clear and out-pressure, but what do you know? Yuki on this right-hand side putting pressure onto Hong, but Hong on a warrior now that has a little bit more maneuverability, able to get away with the dash.
Cabrakan kind of just knew that they weren't going to be able to connect with that one, although they're going to eat a Kern stun for it. The Brambles doing a decent amount of poke out damage, and Neath as well, not trading too well against those in-hands from Kern.
Yeah, it's tough. You got to really rely on those abilities early on as Neath is. Here comes Koala looking to utilize that Kraken stun a little bit off the mark, and there's the through space and time as well. Koala could have just popped the Kraken on the Geb, probably found first blood, but decided to hold off as soon as the stun from Nevermore missed.
The buffs have respawned now for Boys at Tiaras. They want to try and maybe defend them, but even with Godlike Crazy having made the rotation, there's just not as much damage to go around early game for Boys at Tiaras against CN's draft.
Well, Athena hits level 5, so that Defender of Olympus is ready to go. Just in case Koala looking to finish off the dive, and that Kraken will not do it because of a nice Geb shield there by Nevermore. Here comes the portal in from Godlike Crazy. Cabrakan ends up taking way too many tower shots, but still able to survive for the moment. But Athena on the rotation. Thor dunks down behind, trying to cut off the escape, but no one was pushing forward to force them into Thor. And somehow, after all that, looks like everyone might be able to get away, though Cabrakan certainly going to be the target. Rollout, trying to close the gap. Knock up should be able to do it. One auto attack from Godlike Crazy secures first blood for Boys with Tiaras.
They have to punish that every single time, though. CN invested so much for so long, really overstaying their initial welcome. And the fact that two members from CN66 tried to dive inside of that T1 tower and were still unable to find the first blood kill onto the Kernanos really goes to show that they just were way, way too far up in that lane.
I was stressed out for them. Like, I just seeing that many low health bars and seeing what they were getting away with, you almost you kind of are rooting for the team to punish a play like that, and eventually boys with tiaras do. So already off to a better start at this point. Last game, Taco, there was a pretty substantial lead and a bunch of kills too. Only 1 kill on the board in 5.5 minutes. A vastly different story than what we saw from these two squads in game 1.
I'm a big fan of the Geb for game 2. I think that Hoxie is going to be able to provide a lot more appeal for their Hunter than what they were able to in game 1. Speaking of which, Marquise just trying to escape right now, but it's not going to be enough against the Guan Yu dive. Aegis, though, going to save him for the moment. Actually looking for the outplay.
Nice stun there from Ringo. Going to save the life of his solo laner. Athena's here, though, and can't block that one. Just needs the shield wall, but doesn't have it up quite yet. There we go. Yuki able to find the kill. Could escape with 1 HP and does just that. Through space and times comes through for just for good measure. But a 1-for-1, solo for solo on the right-hand side.
But look what's going down in the process. Godlike Crazy trying to pay some attention to the solo lane is going to end up costing him his T1 tower. And now Thor is going to look for the collapse. No portal to get away.
Good Geb shield, and here comes the Athena ult on the wrong target, and Koala gonna gobble up the Giannis with the Kraken Beats Force off the taunt. There comes the Wild Hunt from Cernanos. Koala gets away very, very low, and that extra movement speed from Trident is enough, Taco. He's gonna be able to escape, as maybe Cabrakan will as well. Ringo trying to keep his support alive, already used the wall, turns around, throws a double tap to try and dissuade the Geb from advancing any further. Not gonna work. Yuki eventually does find the kill on the Nevermore. So again, a 1-for-1, but this time it's mid laner for support, and that's going to end up favoring CN666.
You just know that Poseidon and crew were looking for that red buff for a second. It was a moment. It crossed their mind, but they just did not have enough time to try and take away Boys with Tiara's jungle buffs yet again. And in fact, they're going to be able to secure their own purple this time as well. So already in a much better spot than last game.
Yeah, Bunny sitting in a much better spot than last time around, though. Still takes a ton of damage there from Neath. In fact, that World Weaver should be enough at this point. No, needed to charge it for just a moment more, though. Will force out the Purification Beads. Now Bro are in a little bit of trouble, but still has the backflip available. Trying to play it coy and wait it out in case CERN wants to come back. Good attempt on the solo kill there. Got the Purification Beads, and it's going to force Bunny to back, so not the end of the world as Guan Yu combines with the Thor to bring down Marquise deep underneath the tier 2 tower. And this is the time that you want to start diving that Loki. He doesn't have his boots finished quite yet. His Aegis is down. You want to punish him early, and good recognition from CN that Marquise was kind of the carry that they had to worry about last game as well.
And again, we see the jungle for Boys with Tiaras trying to go in, but hold that thought. Giannis going to eat a whole lot underneath his own T2 tower, although he will get the assist for the death of Ringo.
There's the Kraken onto Hoxie. He's going to fall here. Neath gets the credit. Now going to turn his attention to Bunny. Good damage there onto the Cernanos. Koala going to end up diving that because right around the back comes Cabrakan. Great team play there. Good communication from CN. The dive earlier, little bit ambitious. That one, perfectly executed.
They knew that they had the backup of the Cabrakan, and that Cab this early on into the match was going to have plenty of damage to either secure the kill or help Poseidon pick it up. And still a huge bounty, I would say, for Koala getting that kill onto the Cernanos, who hadn't yet died, an only member of his team, or one of the only members of his team that had yet to fall. And now the advantage for the duo lane is again just going to be back into Broher's hands.
Oh, Marquise in a lot of trouble here. Has to use the Assassinate to get away from the pressure on the right-hand side of Yuki. So I wonder if these two kind of decide to switch it up a little bit to give Marquise some safer farm. Good damage onto that Cabrakan. Through space of time, off the mark. Nice juke there from Nevermore. Dunk a little bit off the mark as well. And eventually Hoxie will find that kill. Thor decides to exit stage right, but did get slowed by that threshold. Gonna eat an unstable vortex as well, but he will stay safe. Yuki able to dash out of the whirlpool just in time. Means that's a pretty clean pick on the Nevermore. Just a little bit too aggressive there in the middle lane with his positioning.
Nearly half of Ringo Starr's health, actually, from one unstable Vortex. So this Giannis has a lot of poke potential already. Seems to be chunking away pretty nicely at the members of CN666. It's really just a concern of Boys with Tiaras and their positioning for duo lane. Don't want to try and rinse and repeat, essentially, what happened in Game 1.
Ooh, Koala throws out the Kraken, but Bunny able to dash away from it, though it did plenty of damage to Hoxie, and he will end up falling. I'm sure Koala wanted the 2-piece there, but will take the 1 kill in exchange for the Kraken. 7-4, 10 minutes in, CN666 off to a lead, and a pretty good one for that matter, but still nothing close to what they had in Game 1.
It's mostly just the fact that they've already stripped away 2 T1 towers, so map pressure already heavily in favor of CN, at least for the early game portion.
Marquise trying to get away, 8 a Neath ultimate here as well. Assassinate up just in time to get away from the Cabrakan ultimate. Well played by the Loki. But Taco, every time we tune in with Marquise, he's on the run. He can't find any farm. He's 3 levels down right now.
That's just one of the side effects of picking Loki. At a higher level of play, it's much more difficult to establish those kind of pressure leads that you might be able to find in your standard ranked or casual game as Loki. This Assassinate as well is not panning out super effectively because he keeps just having to use it defensively. The Guan Yu prot shred as well off of the Tallow Assault is doing wonders as far as keeping up, or keeping track, I should say, of where the Loki is in Invis.
Ooh, through space and time fired, but off the mark to get to the Gold Fury and hit it, but it will force the enemy team to reset, though immediately Godlike Crazy's met by a stun. A beautiful Kraken there from Koala, eats a couple. Marquise will find 1 cleanup kill underneath, make that 2 actually, as he finds Nevermore as well. Finally Ringo gonna answer back, but a great turnaround here by Boys with Tiaras. Up into the sky goes Ringo, maybe look to crash down. Indeed does, in a risky spot, but won't get punished for it. Ends up being a 2 for 3 in favor of Boys with Tiaras, but all the while Hong was just split pushing, so they get a tier 1 tower on the right-hand side, do CN666. So they end up about even there, but the big takeaway for me is the Boys with Tiaras look like they had lost that fight right away, Taco. I mean, the stun into the double Kraken, immediately CN start off with a 2-0 advantage, but a great turnaround from the Boys with Tiaras.
Marquise, despite being a level 10 Loki, still has a lot of burst potential against some of these more squishier gods. Against Guan Yu, you're not going to really notice that burst damage off of his 3rd ability or the invis with the slow bleed, but I think that he did a great job using that invis to work around the backline enough to capitalize on securing those kills. But I really like the decision as well from Hong to just stay split pushing. He knew that his team had the team fight handled at the Gold Fury pit. Whether or not they were able to secure Gold Fury was kind of irrelevant, because either way, they were already going to be getting an additional gold bounty just off of that T1 alone.
It's true. Hong decides to stay put, continue to get a bigger lead. Had his teleport available, but wasn't upgraded, so couldn't use it to teleport to a ward or anything like that. Would have needed to use a tower. Bro, we're gonna find the solo kill. Yeah, don't walk that close. I mean, Bunny literally staring down the barrel of the gun says, yeah, I'll take that fight. Cabrakan ultimate used there onto Hoxie. He's gonna fall. Koala now 5-0 and 3, but Marquise looking for the cleanup kill on the left-hand side, gonna assassinate onto Brower, trying to get him away in the mid, though. Athena gets locked in that Whirlpool combo. Marquise does eventually find that 1v1 kill against the Neath, but that's 1 kill in response to the 3 that CN were able to grab in the mid.
What I'm expecting for CN to start doing shortly so that they can stop losing their members from these Loki picks is just everybody staying grouped. It's practically impossible for a Loki to take out any of their squishier members as long as they're all grouped together. And take a look at Hong again, just pushing away in this solo portion of the map, and this T2 tower is already practically gone.
Yeah, he hasn't really been a part of these team fights quite yet, and that's really where you want your Guan Yu to be, is a part of the team fights. That's why you draft him for the team fight phase, because that heal is so strong. Resetting your getting your cooldowns back faster by healing your teammates, by dashing through the enemies, and making sure that your team stays healthy. Hong is, as soon as he finished off of that Stone of Gaia, I feel like that's the time to start rotating and start to really make an impact, because I really feel like as soon as Hong joins these team fights, all that burst damage is going to get healed up right away. from the conviction heal. It's going to be a lot harder for Boys with Tiaras to make anything happen as Boys with Tiaras actually steal away the Gold Fury that through space and time from Godlike Crazy actually grabbed it. Koala makes him pay, but certainly one that's worth for Boys with Tiaras. Great snipe there from Godlike Crazy.
Could have been a lot worse than what it actually ended up being. They are going to lose 2 members in the process already, though. And CN666, they might have lost the Gold Fury, but Pyromancer's next on their list. They've got to make sure to secure this one. Otherwise, this 4,000 gold lead, 5,000-ish that they're up, is going to get even slimmer between these 2 teams. But a huge pickup kill, or pick up, I should say, of the objective. Gold Fury really closing the gap because this might have gotten a little bit too out of control had CN actually managed to take that one away as well.
Well, Marquise has finished off his Breastplate of Valor, going for a defensive option on the Loki, something we don't see too often. Do you agree with this decision here, Taco?
Not necessarily. I think he's mostly just looking for the 20% additional cooldown reduction. Loki does need cooldowns, I would say, at least if he wants to accomplish his early game mission. Great force out of the Aegis there, though, from Marquise. That's kind of what you want to see out of your Loki. That's the little bit that he can provide.
Hong being forced out of his home on the right-hand side. May as well set up shop there at this point. Marquise in some trouble. World Weaver hits right after the Aegis, but Nevermore looking to close the gap and will, even through the speed buff. Nevermore able to catch up and drop the walls. Now Bunny kind of got baited, but good turnaround there. Almost found the kill onto Ringo. Love the idea. So on the right-hand side, Koala is able to reach Hong. Hong dealing the player damage instead of towards the minions this time, and it sets up Koala for a really nice triple kill. 2 on the left, 3 on the right. Doesn't matter where they fell, they all died. And that's a deicide for CN666.
It wasn't just the team that died, but the tower as well in solo. T2 getting picked up just extends that gold lead that was starting to become a little bit more reasonable to a whopping 8,000. And the experience difference as well is another thing to know. These 2 teams are just on completely different spectrums right now.
20-7, CN just dominant so far in our finals of the SMITE Global Series. Boys with Tiaras are going to need a miracle at this point in order to come back and win this one, it feels like. Even though, I mean, we've seen teams win 9K games before, but this one just feels a little bit different, doesn't it, Taco? It just dominance. The really good play there by Bunny, and these are the sorts of things that you need if you want to start to turn it around. Bunny had a really rough game 1. Game 2 hasn't, you know, the scoreline doesn't look that great, but the play has been there. I mean, he's second on the player damage charts. That
cockiness from the Neath, though, and I love the punish that Bunny was able to provide on this Kerninos, really utilizing that Kern passive to his advantage. Speaking of which, Koala eating a huge chunk of his health, but a beautiful egg is going to stop him from dying.
He's out, I think, Taco. Has to be careful from the through space, and time, it won't hit. There goes into the portal, Godlike Crazy trying to find it. They really want to shut down that immortal Poseidon. Koala stays up even through the good burst damage. That Aegis was insane, perfectly timed to stop the assassinate damage. The turnaround is perfect as well. Just when it looks like Boys with Tiaras are getting a little bit of momentum, CN shut the door beautifully.
Koala is just on his own level in this game. In game 1, he already looked great on that Thoth, but this is just something else entirely. Speaking of which, Broher could be soloed yet again, but he's going to get some assistance this time around. Yeah,
Koala grabs that one. May have been okay, though, in his defense with that World Weaver. Either way, I don't mind the aggressiveness there from Bunny. You're already that deep into the enemy jungle. You may as well try and bring someone down with you, and nearly did. So I like the aggressiveness overall. I think you're right. It's just pretty clear that Koala is the best player on the map right now, and it's going to be hard to bring him down. So he's going to be able to turn that around on the Jungle Athena right away. Runs away from the Loki, but straight into the waiting clutches of the Geb, though. That's the better one to run into in that situation. Trying to find that sneaky back in the enemy jungle. Marquise, Godlike Crazy, both hunting him, but no one finds him. Able to sneak back to base. The perfect scoreline still maintained.
Geb wasn't able to keep sight of where exactly Koala was roaming through in the jungle, and most players would probably anticipate him to try and start heading back towards his own side of the map, but instead he just goes deeper into the enemies.
Blink out of danger by Nevermore. Was a little worried about that Loki pressure. Broher still wants to take this team fight, it looks like, because Kabrakan is there. Around the back comes Marquise. This Neath dead to rights, though a nicely timed Aegis gets him out of that aim strike damage. Nothing will save him from the unstable vortex as Nevermore trades out onto Bunny, though Nevermore will inevitably fall here. No blink, no way for him to get away. And Meditation, his other relic certainly shouldn't save him at this point, though he will use it to try and stay alive. Finally does fall. Marquise able to grab his 4th kill. Should be nearing, I mean, how many aim strikes did we hear in the middle of that? Nearing that 40% max CDR as soon as he finishes off that Hydra's Lament.
For a second, I really thought he was actually going to get away, get that blink up and running, and just escape.
That would have been... That's the moment where everyone just kind of looks at each other in a set like this, and you have a guaranteed kill, and they're able to get away somehow, where everyone looks at each other and goes, okay, this is just not our day. But Cabrakan did fall, and it still could be Boys with Tiara's day. Pyromancer goes the way of CN666. They'll grab that little speed buff coming out of their base. That's a long flight for a lonely fireball.
I want to see some grouping out of Boys with Tiaras now, because you can almost expect that CN666 are going to start heading there straight towards that Fire Giant pretty shortly here. They've already amassed a pretty significant lead. It won't really take them too much time at all to actually just siege that Fire Giant. If anything, they could force the fight. Maybe Marquise might look for some split pushing opportunities here. Seems as though he wants the Neath right now. Good
damage there onto the Neath. No Aegis available for her, and stuns her into the decoy explosion. Love that play from Marquise, and that nets him the kill onto Broher. But look at where the rest of CN666 is, Taco, and no real awareness here from Boys with Tiaras. I know they're far behind, but that feels like a Fire Giant that they could at least poke their head in and say, can you guys like not do this real quick? And maybe CN will respect it. Yuki gets just obliterated by a Kraken from Koala. Stop me if you've heard that one before. Giannis locked in the walls. Koala gets a double kill. Set up, though, by Nevermore.
15-0-7.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
He's been a part of so many kills.
Yeah, 22 out of 29.
And the fact is that no one seems to be able to kill him. No one can get anywhere near him. They're just not capable of keeping up with Koala right now. This guy is on fire with this Poseidon.
Yeah, it has that extra movement speed from the passive, but I don't know. The positioning's been solid as well. Everything from Koala has been pretty solid this game. Going for a Demotic Grip here in that 5th item slot. Something that looks a little bit off-kilter, a little bit strange, but something that can be super effective on Poseidon. Those Trident shots that you get whenever you activate your 2. Hold that thought, Marquise. Trying to combine with Yuki, a little bit off the mark with the Assassinate Defender of Olympus combo. And the turnaround is good from the boys of CN666. Marquise will fall to Hong's Talu Assault. I like the idea, but the execution just a little bit off. Yuki on the run, gets stunned out, double tapped, and brought down. Ringo Starr, 7, 1, and 10 for the jungler.
Nice little string of CC there coming out from CN666. They really just chased down Marquise and Yuki. Neither of them really standing a chance, and it's so devastating for Boys of Tiaras because those are probably 2 of their more formidable members for fighting into CN66 right now. Man,
that damage from Koala was perfect. Kraken there as well. Hong will grab that kill, but it's all about that mid laner. The 16, 0, and 8. You might be able to make that 17. No, he does fall. Bunny brings down the raid boss. Sound the alarm. Koala died. Hong wants to go for the Titan here, Taco, but his ADC has different plans. Going for this right side Phoenix. Instead, Hong going to tank up this Phoenix just a little bit. Marquise coming back, though, has that ultimate available. Neath needs to be wary of where Marquise is, but backflips in time. Yuki going to fall for the 8th time this game. As a split push begins to happen on the left. Ringo pushing there. Broher going to use the Aegis, trying to predict the Assassinate from Marquise. Great Geb Shield keeps the Loki alive, and now Neath could be in some trouble, but backflips right out of danger. That Assassinate was there, but didn't even need the Aegis for the Neath. Nice play on the right-hand side. Hong and Broher combined to bring down Marquise.
So unfortunate in the middle of defense to use that Assassinate and come up short with it. Again, Ringo Starr's coming back to assist the rest of his teammates. They're not even bothering with this Phoenix anymore. They just want the kill onto the Giannis.
Well, Giannis looks like he's going to be able to get away. Indeed, he will. Able to portal back into his fountain. The right side Phoenix falls through space and time. Man, Broher, no fear at all. Bunny comes back, and nice taunt. Might keep him up. No, Ringo will end up finding that one. And able to use the Anvil of Dawn to get away. Okay, I I thought he was going to go back in there for a second.
I was waiting for it because of the fact that Neith did hit that World Weaver with the root, trying to get a little bit of boosted damage. He is going to end up falling, though, to Godlike Crazy, finally getting a kill to help out his team on this defense.
Man, Koala, he's back. Not deterred from taking a spill he probably didn't want to take. My man feels so comfortable that he can go 6th item Warlock Sash, getting that extra health to try and deal with the Loki. Dash forward, forces out the Purification Beads. That's just going to be another kill notched by Koala. 18 in total. Excuse me, 19 in total. And that should do it. CN666 grab the 2-0 victory in this week's SEA SMITE Global Series.
You know that somebody's really far ahead on your team when the Loki ults away from them. Doesn't even bother trying to take him out. He's just done with it and still ends up falling.
That is definitely the sign. Loki's always trying to get in there, especially on a mage late game. You know, you got 4 or 5 items. It's time to mess that mage up, but turns out Koala's got 18 kills and don't really want to mess with him. CN666, they find a 2-0 victory. Looks like they had a pretty good run today. They found the 2-0 in the semifinals as well. Congratulations to the boys of CN666. And for boys with tiaras, a pretty good attempt there. Had some shining moments. Marquise in particular in game number 1. Bunny in game number 2 had a pretty good showing. Just clearly need to work on playing the map overall.
Would like to see a little bit more of drafting experience as well. I think that these kind of sets are really important. Just teaches you what you can and can't get away with. Maybe they could start to learn to prioritize some other picks in the future that could provide them a little bit more pressure early on.
Well, that does it for our SMITE Global Series, but don't worry, this is not even close to the end of your SMITE competitive today. 1 p.m. Eastern in just a little bit, really, about an hour. We've got the SPL starting here exclusively on Mixer. So go grab your lunch, do whatever you got to do, get your chores done. Be back here at 1 for some SPL action.